Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and welcome to our program today. Now, if you've been with us for the last couple of years, you'll realize that the format of our show is probably different than a lot of other shows. What we do is we take a single individual film and we have a special guest in which we have a conversation about the film, whether we are critiquing it, analysis, telling our dislikes, our likes, kind of just having a one-on-one or one-on-two type of conversation about the individual film. That is in order for you, the audience, gets a clear picture of some of the different aspects of the film that we, as film lovers and film critics, have upon that film. So hopefully, when you watch or listen to our episode, you'll be able to get a better idea of what you can enjoy in these films. Now, the film we are doing today is a very classic film. It's a film from the 1950s, and it's one of those drive-in movies that back in the day the teenagers just loved. Nowadays, it's not as fondly remembered, except for as nostalgia purposes. But we're going to talk about it anyways, and that is 1958's The Blob. And to talk about this movie with me, I have Mr. Dave Watkins and Jim Adams, who have been frequents on our show. I want to thank you guys just for joining us on this show, and hopefully we can delve deep into this movie, of which I doubt any one of us ever saw it when it originally came out.
No, I was a little young for that, but I was alive.
Yeah. It would have been a good one to see at the drive-in theater.
Yeah, I'm sure my parents saw it at the drive-ins. They were always going to the drive-ins. Yeah. I was about like between 3 and 4 years old when this.
That's old. That's old enough, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't introduced to monster movies for it'd be another couple of years.
Yeah.
Well, so it's gonna be interesting to talk about this film because none of us grew up on this film, and this is a film that we all have seen outside of our normal growing up on films. Like
I don't know, monster movie matinee, Syracuse, New York. I was probably about like 8 years old when I saw it. I guess first time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That being said, I'd like to get you guys kind of an outlook on your ideal behind this film before we get into like the nitty gritty and the actual plot and stuff like that. For the occasional person who may not have seen this film, how about you, Dave?
I think with the Blob, it's a pretty cool monster idea. The Blob is, and even though I was aware of the Blob, even if I don't know if I saw the movie earlier on, but I was aware of it even before the 1988 one, which is the one that I grew up with. Mm-hmm. But I was aware of the monster, the Blob, before that. But I'm pretty sure I saw this at one point, or the sequel, Beware of the Blob, before I saw the original Blob. But I remember it as a kid. Just it is a kind of a cool monster, and it's done a lot better in the '88 version. But as far as I think the first time I really saw this one really good, it was probably a few years ago. I watched it on HBO, and it was. I'm not going to get into it too much. I'd like to talk about it a little bit more later. I don't want to really say exactly my impression of it, but let's save that for a little bit.
What about you, Jim?
Well, I was a pretty little kid when I saw it. And the thing that I thought was so cool about the because it's definitely like a monster from outer space or whatever. I don't know if you'd call it an invasion or whatever, but this thing that shows up. When I was about 6 years old or so, Walt Disney came out with a film called Flubber. Actually, it started with The Absent-Minded Professor with Fred MacMurray, and then Son of Flubber was the sequel to Absent-Minded Professor. The other reason I bring that up is that there was this stuff that came out that was trying to compete with Silly Putty, and it was called Flubber, and it looks just like the stuff in this movie. So when I first saw this movie, I thought, oh, that's so cool, because I had some Flubber as a kid, so I thought that was really neat. But I thought, gee, I wonder if it's going to eat my arm. But, yeah.
It looks like a big. It looks like maybe Jello or like some kind of raspberry. Yeah. It looks like, but it like rolls around. It's
just a big silicone.
Blob,
I mean, it's just
silicone.
That was sort of a new thing when I was a kid. So this was the really cool stuff.
Yeah. And apparently you never really see it too much interacting with people. Like, you see it most of the time. It's like miniature sets, and it wasn't as big as it appears on screen. But it's it's actually pretty impressive if you see how they did it. But you do see it occasionally on somebody in this much smaller form. But
Right.
Yeah. So I didn't see this movie until after I'd seen the remake. I kind of was curious about going back and seeing the original after I'd seen the remake. And like you, Dave, I grew up on the remake. I've probably seen the remake 10 to 15 times, so I easily know that movie really well. This film, because I didn't grow up with it and because I didn't find it nearly as entertaining and action-packed as the remake, I didn't really take to it nearly as well until after I learned who Steve McQueen was, because I didn't know who Steve McQueen was either when I originally saw it.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
I didn't grow up with Steve McQueen films.
Well, he was just getting going. I mean, he had made a couple of popular films, but he was their ringer. He was just on the cusp of becoming a major superstar when he made this film.
Well, I honestly had not really seen any Steve McQueen films until the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
He's a good actor. He's definitely a star. I think what's interesting, not necessarily interesting, what struck me when I saw this film, and I think when I saw it I remember seeing parts of it when I was younger, but he looks a lot older than he should be in the film. He's supposed to be playing a teenager, and
to me, he looks like a high school kid. Yeah,
I mean, he looks like he's like 40 years old almost.
He does,
but, yeah. And it's like so hilarious when he's like his parents come to get him out of jail, and it's like, but apparently he was 28 years old when he shot the film.
Yes,
but he looks older than that to me when I'm watching it. He looks.
But that was a big thing in the 50s. They always had 30-year-olds playing like high school kids and stuff like
that. He's supposed to be 17 years old, and he looks nothing like a 17.
He looks, and when his father comes to pick him up, when they got get picked up by the cops, it almost looks like his father's the kind of guy who'd probably go out and get a beer with him.
Yeah. With the father of the girl, though, this is a lot different. He's a little more uptight,
So for everyone who's listening, if you haven't seen the Blob before and you're not familiar with the plot, it's a very simple plot. Essentially, Steve McQueen's character, Steve, and his so-called girlfriend, the person he's seeing right now, Jane, come across, or they're out in like Lover's Lane, and they see what they think is a shooting star fall out of the sky. Unfortunately, they weren't the first people to find it, but kind of a hermit character finds it first, and unfortunately, he opens it up. In the crater is a little meteorite. He kind of opens it up, and the blob, a small little blob, comes out and grabs a hold of his hand, and eventually, when Steve and Jane come across this hermit who runs in the road, they take him to the doctor because, this thing isn't going to come off of his hand. And after that, what tends to happen in these type of movies is the kids start thinking this is a monster, but the grown-ups, they can't convince it's an actual monster, and it's getting bigger every time it kills someone. And so they have to do lots of different tactics to kind of prove to the grown-ups and to the police, especially Dave, which seems to be the only empathetic cop in the world.
Yeah, he's the good guy. Yeah, he's like not the sheriff. He's the lieutenant. He runs the police department.
There's another cop in there who's not like a dick though. He's like got a chessboard.
He's got the chessboard.
But he's Jeffrey or whatever.
But he could give a shit about what's going on with the Blob stuff. He wants to play chess, but he's not like there's only really one other cop who's really a prick to him.
You find out in the movie that he was, he's a Korean War veteran, and his wife was killed by a 17-year-old teenage driver.
Right, and he looks younger than Steve McQueen.
He does.
He does. Oh my God! But it's another one of those films back in the day, and this is during the drive-in era of the industry, and so there was a lot of these movies that were drive-ins, and the movie theater does play a predominant role in this film.
And it's a real movie. It's like actually a sit-down movie theater, not a drive-in theater. It actually does show that,
right?
Which is probably one of the most iconic scenes in horror sci-fi history, because everyone knows about the Blob and the fact that there's the movie scene in which the Blob comes through the.
Do you think that's the first time that happened in a film?
I don't know, but it's so iconic for the Blob.
I can think of only one other one, and that'd be the Tingler.
Yeah,
where they're in the film, at the end they were in the movie theater and the Tingler's running around loose.
Yeah,
you don't see
but
that.
The Tingler
that
came out later.
Scene.
But didn't the Tingler come out later than this movie?
I'm looking. I mean, obviously it happens in Gremlins too.
About the same time.
Yeah,
it was
Tingler's
late 50s.
1959. So
yeah,
wow.
Maybe Tingler stole that scene. They're like, they saw it, and they're like,
knowing William Castle, I would say, he probably did. He probably did.
I'm like, it's William Castle. He probably did. He thought that would have been a great idea, anyways. Everything has to be a gimmick in his movies, and why not that?
And again, the Blob is a movie. It is geared towards teenagers.
Yes,
I mean that was and it's very obvious. So for folks nowadays, like for you guys or whatever, looking at it, I think it's probably pretty obvious. It's like, wow, they wanted the teenage crowd that would hang out and make out in the drive-in theaters. That's who their audience was for this.
But
But it surprised people because it really did well.
Right. Yeah, I think it
It was a huge hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a huge hit. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to mention when they first see the Blob, they're not quite convinced yet. When they drop him off at the doctor's office, after that, he tells them to go back and get some more information about the meteorite. But then on the way back, they stop and they see these other teenagers and they drag race. They're actually not at that point, which is they're not really, those two characters aren't quite convinced yet. It's not until they go back to the doctor's office and they see the doctor getting killed by the Blob, and at that point they're like, okay, this is legit. But there's not caring that much, and it's the pacing is a little slow because of that, and then after that they take a long time. The next up until about an hour into the film, trying to convince everybody that the Blob's real, and you don't see the Blob killing people very often. It's just occasionally.
Except for the mechanics, the closest you come to, you sort of see that. They sort of imply it anyway.
Yeah, well, I think all the deaths are kind of implied. The ones in the grocery store. I think it's the convenience.
Yeah, they just talk about it. That somebody was supposed to have been there.
Right.
And then of course the
Blob can
the mechanic.
Yeah.
But that's
and the nurse. Don't forget the doctor's nurse gets it too.
Yeah, just when someone gets killed, though, it just rolls over them, and that's it. They're in there, and unfortunately, because of the limitations at the time for special effects, you don't get a big growth of the Blob until near the end. It suddenly kind of stays about the same size, and then all of a sudden it's really big.
Yeah.
It gets huge. Yeah, huge for the theater scene. Then it really gets big.
Right, and most of the time it's just like a big. It's maybe the size of I don't know, refrigerator or something like that rolling around. Maybe, but
I'm assuming it got a good meal of the people at the theater.
It got a few of them. Yeah.
Yeah, the cop at one point says it killed. He's like, I think it killed 40 to 50 people.
He says, 40 or something.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, I don't remember hearing that. Oh my God.
That was when he was on the phone with the governor. He was trying to get the authorities to come in because he knew that the only way they could stop it was cold, and they were going to get the army to fly it up to the to the Arctic.
Yeah.
Which
he says would never thaw out. It's like, boy, this is something they didn't know about global warming back then, I guess.
No, that's why you could do a sequel now, a legacy sequel. Do a legacy sequel now, and it
Beware the Blob sort of did that. That's how you sort of got the Blob and Beware the Blob, the sequel.
If this the Blob though, if the cold didn't stop it, people would be pretty screwed.
Oh yeah,
because they go in the freezer like the main characters, and the Blob comes into the freezer, and they're completely like that. That would have been it would have been it for. If that Blob can just keep going and going, though, it would devour the whole planet if there wasn't some way to stop it.
Absolutely.
Nuclear weapons. The Blob apocalypse now. That's what we have.
It was just the whole planet. The whole planet would be the Blob until it destroyed itself.
A very interesting concept. Actually, when you start to think about it, if they ever decide to try and do a legacy sequel of this, although
I think some scientists need to get involved and figure out a way to get it so it's okay to get cold. Then you'd have a real weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just need like the Ebola virus for the Blob. Bioweapons. Bioweapons against the Blob. That's what they have to come up with.
That's it.
But it's 1958, so I guess it was kind of the Cold War was going on, and that was kind of what.
Absolutely.
Yeah. People were kind of wanting.
Yeah.
Like they were fearing everything, and I guess it's kind of a relief of their fears, just kind of seeing this sort of thing on screen, which kind of emphasized the fears of the time, I think. Because I wasn't there, but I would.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would say 80% of the movies made during that decade, dealt somehow with that fear of nuclear war.
Oh yeah,
the Russians and the communist threat and all of that stuff. So
yeah,
it works itself into all of these movies.
And then, of course, in the remake, they decided to make it, the Blob is not an alien life form; it's something that was created in the lab that was accidentally released.
Yeah,
Of
course, that would never happen nowadays.
No.
Something in a lab would never be a threat.
No.
Never that I'm aware of.
Anyway. It's very, very unrealistic plot line. But,
that's why I'm so surprised that the remake didn't get a sequel, because it was so well done. And
I know it. Yeah.
It was a horrifying movie. Now this movie right here, because it was made for a drive-in audience and teenagers. And we've already discussed the fact that a lot of the deaths are off screen.
Right.
Plays with a lot of the things that teenagers were interested in, and was not violent, and it had more of a sense of playfulness with it. I mean, like I said, the ending does take place in a movie theater where it's almost all completely filled with teenagers, except for that old guy. The old guy.
That was me. I'm that old guy now. Shut up! I want to watch this monster movie.
This cheesy monster movie on the screen. I'm like, this old guy is telling him to be quiet, and I'm like, why are you even here?
Yeah.
And why are you in the balcony, knowing that in the balcony there's only one reason those kids go up to the balcony.
Yeah.
So hilarious. But the tone of this movie and the actual execution is a far cry from the 88 version, which plays upon more like a straight horror film. And this film has endured for multiple different reasons. I know a lot of it has to do with Steve McQueen, because he's like royalty for the film industry. But what other aspects of do you think people have gravitated to keep this film in the spotlight for as long as it has been, other than the famous scene in the movie theater when the Blob shows up?
There's a lot of people that are starting their careers in this movie, like Anita Korsakov, who became the wife of Andy Griffith in the Andy Griffith Show. You'll see some other familiar faces among the teenagers that will show up again in some 60s stuff. And of course, the old man who gets it in the beginning, Olin Howard, he was a very famous character actor. He did, probably 60 or 70 different movies during.
Yeah. Apparently this was his last movie.
This was his last movie. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think is the plot is actually used, like in the 1988 version. They kind of use the same format, the plot for the most part. I mean, it's different, but it is. The newer ones, the pacing's different for the 1988, but I mean, I think the plot and the structure of the story is pretty strong. I mean, I got some. I don't like the pacing that much, but I think that the idea is there.
Well, I do know that in the remake they tried to not streamline it, but make sure that all the extra scenes actually coalesce with the actual plot of the movie. Whereas in this one, like the drag racing scene doesn't really do much in terms of the plot of the movie, but that's what the kids back then like to do. And
it's sort of set up that the cops didn't trust the kids because they were always screwing around like this and playing gags and stuff like that. So there's a couple of other movies that came out similar to this where there's a threat. I remember a really goofy film called The Invasion of the Saucermen, which I happen to love. Really, 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 the same thing. You've got these people, these kids who have seen a threat from outer space and nobody believes them. because they're just kids. They're just pulling our leg. That's not really.
Invaders from Mars is another one.
And Invader from Mars, and others. So we've seen it, a few times in the older films.
But that racing scene, I actually kind of like it. It seems a little, it seems a little out of place when it happens, because the Blob's already in motion at that point. But almost like that would have been it would have been probably stronger had they had the scene a little earlier before. But
same.
Yeah. But it's like it just kind of like, I really do like that. It has a nice feel to it, but it does seem like it should be kicking up the action at that point,
Yeah, yeah.
Well, they had to set up Steve McQueen's character somehow. I mean, that was, I think that's the only reason it's in there, just so that you've got Sergeant Burt, who's the tough guy, and then Dave, who's the nice lieutenant who sort of says, we understand kids are not really doing anything horrible. It's not like they're killing one another or anything. But it sets them up against each other. You got all kinds of little dynamics going on in this thing that are important to teenagers. I mean, that's where they're playing the teen thing about, the parents don't understand me. They don't get it. It's like, this thing's going to kill you. Just go to bed. Leave us alone. We know what we're doing.
I do like I like the way the kids change, though. The kids that he's drag racing against, once he doesn't narc them out to the cop, they are all of a sudden like him. I do like that change from being like, they're being kind of bullyish to like, okay, he's cool.
Yeah.
And that aspect does play an important role at the very end, because at that point, when they finally prove that the Blob is actually real, the kids and the grown-ups all get together. They band together to actually try and not demolish the Blob, because they don't really demolish it, but they all get together to go grab the fire extinguishers once they realize Cole.
Well, the kids work with the principal. Yeah, all of a sudden now they've been mortal enemies. And now, man, they're all working together on the same team.
Yeah. And if you were to do a film like this today, one of the things that a lot of the filmmakers would do is like, you would have the kids do everything themselves, because they don't need the grown-ups. The grown-ups would be an absentee type of presence. And I think that's pretty much how the remake actually plays towards. The grown-ups are the cop when cop gets killed.
Jeffrey DeMunn's character. It did the other cop's like a dick. It's like played by that actor from ER. What's his name? It's like
I can't think of his either.
He's in RoboCop too. Yeah.
I used to know his name.
Paul McCrane. Paul McCrane.
The guy that played in RoboCop. He was in RoboCop.
Yeah, he's like plays the dick cop.
Guy started out in Fame. Yeah.
But that's the thing. What I do like about this film is that it played specifically towards its key audience, but it didn't become like a cliche. Like, there's no other real monster movies back then that were like the Blob.
No,
like the Blob. The Blob.
There were no monsters like it. There was there was maybe one. One called Kaltiki. It was a Mexican film that had Kaltiki, the Immortal Monster.
I've seen
and then you've got a similar, and one other one, with an early Hammer film called X the Unknown, which was originally going to be part of the Quatermass trilogy, but then they couldn't get permission to use Quatermass, so they just made the movie. But that was like an amorphous blob that crawled out of the earth and was radioactive and killed people because of the radiation in it.
That's probably from the 70s, though, isn't it?
No. That was a 50s film. It was one of the first Hammer films to come to the United States. That was one of the first
Hammer films.
It's
an old black and white one.
Yeah, it's 1956, so it's 2 years before the Blob came out.
Right.
The Blob stole the idea.
So there's three there, and Kaltiki was right around that same period as well.
Yeah.
One that Mario Bava directed, although he's uncredited as the director in it.
Oh, well, yeah.
he's uncredited for a lot of stuff. He was a...
he bailed it out. There was another director who sort of flaked out on him, and he was the AD on it, and he went ahead and jumped in and took over.
Yeah, he did that a lot.
But, he probably like ran the AD off, took over.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Oh, Jesus.
But I was fascinated with the movie that was playing at the movie theater. because I don't think I've ever seen it.
Which one?
It was called Daughter of Horror. You know, they had on their Midnight Monster movie. It was Daughter of Horror and Bela Lugosi. I don't know what movie they wanted for that. It was just Bela Lugosi. But A Daughter of Horror was an old film from about this time period called Dementia. And then I don't know any of the people in it. If I saw it, I don't remember it. Because there was no one in it that I knew. But a lot of those films ran on my monster movie show as a kid growing up. But I just don't remember that one at all. But I was always, every time I saw the Blob, I thought, Daughter of Horror, what is that? I thought I'd
that's what's playing in the movie, Daughter of Horror?
Yeah, that's what was on the marquee,
yeah.
And the clips were from that movie. So
they were?
Yeah.
I guess you got permission. It was probably in public domain or something, you know.
It is.
Also keep in mind this was 1958, and they weren't exactly paying all that much attention to all those things nearly as much as they do in this day and age.
The distributor for the Daughter of Horror was Exploitation Pictures, so that should tell you all you need to know.
Yeah.
So, with the Blob, do you think? First of all, do you think that the film itself was a very I was trying to figure out the word. Do you think it was a very successful film in terms of the audience that it was going for? Do you think it still holds up to this day and age, especially considering we had a sequel, Beware the Blob, and we had the remake?
Well, it does have a Criterion release, so that says something for it, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was made for $100,000, so that is definitely on the low end in 1958. Especially because it was in color, which was a surprise.
Right? Yeah.
When I grew up, I didn't realize this film was in color until we got our first color TV, because so many of these films from the 50s were in black and white.
Right.
But its first release, it took in $4 million off that 100,000. So that's a blockbuster for these low budget poverty films. That was a big hit.
I thought it was black and white too. I do feel like I've seen a black and white Blob film, and it's not this one. But
it was shot in color originally.
I know, and I didn't remember it being in color either. But it's.
I didn't either. I remember it in black and white, and then of course I watched it. I was like, "Oh, hey, this is in color."
Yeah,
and I looked it up, and it said it was in color.
Yeah,
I was like, I could have sworn I saw this movie in black and white. Well, this has never been one of those films that I go back and rewatch. I've seen it because I went back and rewatched it because of the remake, but I haven't necessarily gone back to. I've probably only seen it twice before.
I'll pull it out now and then. It's sort of fun to watch just for a kick, you know. There's a charm about it that's sort of fun, and seeing some of these actors that did go on to have some careers, you know, in their early careers. So the trailer for this is hysterical. I was trying to find it for you guys before we did this, because it's basically they go, you know, an exciting film starring Steve McQueen and a lot of beautiful people. It's like the dumbest trailer I've ever seen. So you know that they were definitely targeting a very young audience for this thing.
Yeah.
But it was a hit with the adults. So I mean, you taking in $4 million in 1958. It's no small feat.
No, and I'm sure it was re-released at the theater too along the years, because that's what they did before.
It was because I remember seeing it in the theater on a Saturday matinee, like that would run horror films and stuff, like classic Hammer films and stuff like that. And occasionally they pull this one in. So yeah, it would.
So you bring up a good point.
Continually to make money, and it's got a huge cult following. So
they have that one. They have that convention that's every year in that one town.
Blobfest.
It could be that. I can't remember. I honestly can't
remember. I think it is. I think they called it Blobfest. Yeah.
Every year to celebrate the Blob. But let me ask you this: do you really consider this a horror film or a sci-fi film, since all the deaths are off screen? What do you consider this movie?
I think it's more sci-fi. I would consider it more, in the line of invasion from another world or something, or The Thing from another world, or Earth versus the Flying Saucers, or something like that. So I think it fits a little better as a sci-fi.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Even it does fit more sci-fi than even the remake. It does have more of a sci-fi kind of edge.
Yeah,
to
it. The remake definitely does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the remake kind of skirts between both of them because the deaths in the remake are really brutal. They're brutal. But but using science, science as a means, that's how the Blob came about, and having the Men in Black people come in.
True.
That all lends itself to a sci-fi atmosphere, but it is a brutal movie, and a lot of people get killed in this.
Think about Invasion of the Body Snatchers. This one's sort of in that line.
That's where I was trying to get at, because back then in the 50s, the movies we remembered, like you mentioned, Thing from Another World, and we mentioned and even Invaders from Mars, the original version. Yeah. They're all, for some, they sometimes get put in that horror genre because the remakes steer closer to horror, but they really do just come off as a sci-fi film, these original versions of the movies.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to talk about, because when we're talking about horror and we're talking about an older version like this movie, does these appeal to the horror fans and horror genre people out there like the remakes do?
Depends on their age. I mean, at the edge of the people. No, really. I mean, when I was growing up, a monster movie was a horror film or a sci-fi or a film of the fantastique, even a serial killer film or whatever. But then horror became much more precise, and they started splitting off the genres where you had horror and sci-fi and, serial killers and it's much more precise now. But back then, in the late 50s and the 60s, it was all monster movies. They just clumped them all together.
You labeled it right with the word fantastic. That's a word that was used
Absolutely.
a lot back then.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
Dave, were you about to say something?
No, I think, to me, it does feel like kind of what Jim was saying. It does feel like horror and sci-fi both, but it does lean more towards sci-fi.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the reason why I ask this is because sometimes we talk about we're talking about horror films in general for our podcast, but I do like to touch upon the fact that some of these horrors stemmed from older films that were not necessarily horror or hardcore horror.
Yeah,
and it's good to go back and see these films that inspired these remakes. Sure. The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing and The Thing from Another World are
that's a great example.
Very different, very different films.
And they're both excellent. I mean, they're both incredible films.
Yeah, Invaders from Mars, the original versus the Tobe Hooper directed remake.
Yeah,
very different.
Very different. Yeah.
Yeah,
the remake plays more like a Japanese horror film. I mean, a Japanese sci-fi film where the kid calls the shots.
And so, well, the thing is, there are some people who may say, "Why are we doing the Blob on this show?" And that's some of the reasons why I pick some of these movies is like that. Is like these are the conversations I want to have, because just because we are a horror conversation podcast, we want to go back to some of the roots of where that came from. And the word fantastic was used like serendipitously during the 50s and the 60s.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or the 40s too. Even the original Universal horror movies were fantastic. They weren't horror movies. They were gothic and fantasy movies. And we didn't start using the word horror religiously until much later.
So,
I think it was like the late 70s that you really started seeing the word horror used a lot, precisely for particular kinds of films.
Because when you say fantastic, you mean like fantasy oriented.
The fantastique.
Fantastique.
Well, they're not, but they were not necessarily just fantasy related. When they said fantastic back then, it kind of encompassed anything that wasn't realistic.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it. Non-realistic.
It wasn't realistic.
Right.
So it was all lumped into this other category until we started differentiate those categories in later decades. Because you would watch like The Thing from Another World today, and it would not you wouldn't, most people wouldn't consider it a horror film, but when you
even though it's got a monster in it,
it's got a monster in it. But it's but that's kind of like it gets lumped in there sometimes.
But that's the way we've become as a society. Everything is far more precise. Look at the medical industry. Mm-hmm. When I was growing up, you had a doctor, you had a few specialists, but you had it. Now, I've got 7 doctors, all specializing in things that probably my original, family physician handled when I was growing up.
Yeah, that's actually it's ridiculous, really, when it comes to that. It seems like they could lump some of them together and make it a little easier for everybody.
You sneezed out the left nostril, so you've got to go see a left nostrilist, or whatever. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it sucks. And then they can't figure it out. You have to go to 4 or 5 of them. And then the 5th one's like, oh, yeah, I know what you need to do. You need to go to this other guy.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't work out,
Okay. So, do either one of you have anything else to say about the Blob?
I had 2 other little things I wanted to talk about.
Excellent. Bring them up.
What do you guys think about the dog in the movie?
Oh, the dog.
The dog that everyone thinks gets killed, but then the teenagers see running out the store.
That is the luckiest dog I've ever seen. Every time you think he's toast, he always comes back.
Yeah.
Well, no one wants to see the dog die in these movies back then.
Yeah.
That was the taboo for years. Is you didn't kill a kid and you didn't kill a dog or an animal on screen. That was you just did not do that.
So it brings me to the second thing. The kid, it's really annoying to me. It shows up about halfway through. And
if that had been made today, if that movie had been made today and that kid comes out with the cap gun, the Blob would just go, screw it, and just eat him.
The Blob is bound to get remade again. I know.
But the best part is the kid. He fires all of his caps at the gun at the Blob, and then what does he do? He throws the gun at him. He must have been watching The Adventures of Superman or something to get that one.
Yeah, well, that's where that
I'm sure that's where it came from.
Yeah.
But those 2 elements, though, they do bring something to it that I guess as an audience member, the kid and the dog are probably safe, but I guess it's still for a moment, it seems like the dog died. You hear it stops barking, but then we saw it running off down the road there. But I don't know, what do you think? What do you think that those 2 audience? Those 2 elements? Why do you think they brought those into the film?
It just humanizes it, I guess.
It just humanizes it, and the fact that that's Jane's little brother, who he was tasked with for protecting the parents while they slept. But then again, he falls asleep himself.
Right.
The little brother doesn't really have a substantial role of anything in this movie. But
how many people back then? I don't think they did, but nowadays are asking. Okay, she's a high school senior. She's 17 years old, and he's got to be 4. And now look at the parents and go, "What happened?"
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Every time I see that movie, I think that I go, my God.
That's a good. Yeah, I didn't even think that.
Like a difference of 13 or 14 years between the 2 of them. It's okay, so he was the mistake, right?
Yeah, yeah. But the kid does have a small point because he is the one that goes into that little diner area. Then they have to go in there and get trapped by the Blob. So,
yeah, I know. Yeah, he's bad news. Just let him eat the kid. No.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I guess that was kind of the whole point of the kid, though, to kind of have them have a reason to go in there and then not be able to get out. But which is it's kind of a cool sequence. That's the part I think from when I saw it the first time, a long time ago. I remember that ending when they're inside of the diner, it's like a diner car, and then they're surrounded by the Blob. And
I love those. My hometown had a diner like that.
Oh yeah.
They're a dying breed now, but you find them. Yeah, there's a few around still.
Yeah, sometimes they'll pop one up. Yeah, yeah, that one has a basement. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The basement's bigger than the actual diner in that shit.
I'm like, it's a diner with a basement? Oh, okay. I'm gonna go.
Yeah,
with that.
no, it's there's actually some societies founded. They're cult fans of diners. They travel all over the country looking for places like that to eat. And the one that's in my hometown is still there. It's one of the most popular places in town.
But it has they have a basement there, like a storm shelter basement under.
They
it's
do.
Like big
that
like
one
that.
is, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense if it's like a permanent thing because that's where you have to store everything.
Yeah, it's just the charm of it being sort of made like a trailer, and
yeah.
And then
right.
So, and anything else, guys?
Well, he was talking about the kid. I was going to say this is the only movie I think that kid made. Yeah. I couldn't find anything on him.
Almost feel like he's I feel like he's dubbed.
Keith, what is it? Keith Almany.
Yeah, I feel like his voice is dubbed, though. I'm not positive on that.
It sure sounded.
Yeah, because he sounds so different than a kid was sounding.
It sounded like an adult trying to be like a woman trying to be a kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he always sounded drunk.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's
hate to pick on the kid, but it's just like, he was sort of a pain in the butt.
Yeah. But it sounds like the way his voice sounds really pompous sounding too. It's like such an odd way of talking. It sounds different than any of the other characters.
Love those Dr. Dentons. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Okay. What about you, Jim?
I don't know. I love this movie when I first saw it, and I just get a kick out of it every time I see it. It is a classic look at what it was like in 1958, I think, or what it was like in the 1950s, or people's image of the 1950s. I mean, they weren't as wonderful as everyone's led to believe now.
They were like blob monsters.
There were a lot of problems in the 50s, as much as we got today, just different ones.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I mean, this is right out of 1960s sitcom type stuff.
It is, and
the misunderstood kids, and and all of that stuff. So a lot of that's at play here.
Well, I think that's an interesting observation. You say the problems are just similar problems. The problems were maybe even worse then because these people were living in fear of getting blown up by a nuclear bomb. I mentioned that a lot to folks that most of us my age. We went all through high school and probably right up until the early 80s, convinced that we would not die a natural death. Right.
That at some point somebody was going to go nuts and hit the button and boom, that's it.
I mean, it still could happen, but
even more so now than before. I mean,
there's not as much fear about it though. Back then, though.
Well, we got some nuts behind the wheel right now that are capable of doing, who knows what.
Yeah. But it's
scary stuff.
Okay.
But it was definitely something that was on everybody's mind. I mean, as a kid starting second grade, we were talking about the missiles of October. That was going on. You were talking about how, I guess they're going to launch missiles from Cuba and kill us all. Okay.
Yeah.
This is second graders,
You're right. Yeah. Yeah. I remember like when we were in school, they used to do these tornado drills. That was like the closest thing to that, where they would scare the bejesus out of you and go tell you to go get in the hallway and put a book over your head or hide under a desk. And it's like,
that's what we did. The old duck and cover thing. It started under the desk, and they said, "No, we got a better way to do it. Go in the hall.
Go in the hall and put a book over your head.
Put your head over your hands over your head." And it was like, this is really nice. And we all knew it. The kids all knew it. The teachers were sort of convinced this was the government said so. So it was like, if they blow this up next to us, we're all gone. I mean, you do realize that.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
I love that in the movie Matinee. They showed a air raid drill. That was like the ones where you said, and the girl, the band, the bomb girl, going, this is stupid.
That's a great movie, Matinee. I love
it's one of my
really
all-time favorite films.
Yeah.
Anyone who's grown up a monster kid needs to watch that movie.
Yeah. Maybe one day we'll get around to that one.
Movie. That fake movie, and that's awesome. Mant,
Mant. I wish they'd actually made the movie. That would.
They do have the Mant short of the disc, the Shout Factory disc.
Yeah.
It's like 30 minutes or something, I guess. But it's hilarious, man.
It's got all the big time stars from old monster movies around it.
Oh, okay. So, for everyone who's listening, we are coming to the end of the episode. But what we do now, at the behest of all of you out there, what we do is we kind of rate the movies between 1 and 5 stars. One being one being horrible, bad, no good, Blob, and the 5 being amazing, amazing. I'm not even thinking anymore because you got me thinking about Cold War and people listening to air raids and hiding with books over their heads in the hallways.
Well, they did blow off a lot of air raid sirens in this movie, so just saying.
Yeah.
Where on the spectrum do each of you put it? And we're gonna start with Dave first.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna. This one's tough. I'm gonna land it at a 3. I think it has. I do like the feel to it. I do like the 50s feel. I like the structure. I think that the pacing's a little off, but it is for the time. So I'm tempted to give it lower just because of some of the problems with it. But I'm gonna stay with a 3 because of Steve McQueen and also some of just the idea behind it. I do like the idea of the Blob. Even though apparently they stole it from X the Unknown, and but it's like
a little bit.
Really,
yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It's really interesting that you brought that up because I've been trying to figure this movie out for a long time. I saw the opening of that when I was a kid, and it takes place in like a kind of a desert or something, an army, and there's like something under the ground. Is that?
Yeah, it's in England. Actually, it's in England where and they're on the maneuvers.
Yeah, and it was like something about I never could figure out what the heck friggin' movie that was, and I was like, I know I've seen it, but it had a blob like creature in it. But
they were doing maneuvers for mine searching for mines. They were training these guys to use a minesweeper to they would plant these mines and then send them out to see if they could find them, and the thing was coming out of the ground down there.
It's pretty cool. And that one is black and white, right?
That is a black and white.
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
It's a really spooky movie.
Yeah. Really that's the movie I was thinking I had seen as the Blob. When I saw this, I was like, this is not the Blob I remember.
And Caltiki was never explained where it came from. It came from Mexico.
Yeah. Well.
It came out of a volcanic cave or whatever.
And Jim, where would you put this movie?
Sam, probably because of my age, I'm leaning more towards a 4, just because it's just a fun movie to watch, and I've always gotten a kick out of it as a kid. But I could see where a lot of people nowadays would think probably the opening of this is a little slow, and it is. Takes a little while to open up, and then once the doctor gets it, then it really starts kicking into high gear. But and movies tended to do that.
But this one too is crazy because when you're watching it, it's kind of slow going, and then like the last 20 minutes, like so much happens in the last 20 minutes.
Absolutely, it goes into overdrive.
And it's like, why were you saving all that for the very end of the movie?
That's just what they did. The movies did that. I mean, for somebody, it'd be like they would make movies back then like a roller coaster. You make that slow ride up to the crest, and then whammo, then they would just go into high gear. But that was just the way they were made. It's just a style. So many of them did that. But, we've become a much more action-packed, oriented society.
We have. Even with
MTV. I don't want to I'm not being critical, but I'm saying MTV and the music video generation really did have an influence, I think, and has had an influence on television and movies. We expect it faster, harder. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's what we become.
Yeah. I think that if someone from the 50s like teleported to today and they watched something that we take as good, they would probably be very overwhelmed by it and not like it.
They would have a heart attack.
Yeah,
they couldn't handle it. They would just their heart would explode.
All right, so I'm gonna give it a 3. I'm gonna give it like Dave. I mostly because of Steve McQueen. I think his performance is very genuine. Despite the fact he's like a good over a decade older than what he's playing. But I think more so than most of the other characters, I think him and Dave the cop, I think give the most humanized performances.
Actually, that's Earl Rowe. He was a very, very popular television actor at the time.
I think they still hold up.
Yeah.
And it did, like I said, the Blob for me has always been a really cool monster because it didn't have any shape or defined form. It could just go anywhere and be anything it wanted to be. And of course, the remake utilizes that aspect tremendously. We don't really see it that much in this film, but the remake does it really extremely well. And that's why I give it a 3. I give the remake a little bit higher than that, but I give this one a 3. I do think it is a product of its time, so it
Absolutely.
may not appeal to younger audiences today.
But something I was going to say, I was going to say this though. When you say younger audience, but I think maybe younger kids might like it if they're not to the point.
Yeah, it's sort of cartoonish when you think about it.
Because if they're not to the point where they're used to seeing really polished movies, they may like the pacing of it a little bit. I guess polish isn't really the word. I meant the pacing.
No, but
it's
sort of like a TV feel to it.
Yeah.
A little bit. It is sort of a step down. I can't argue that.
Yeah. But maybe like if an entry kind of like sci-fi or horror for a younger kid might flow for that.
Yeah.
And plus, no one gets killed on screen except for the doctor. You kind of see him a little bit getting killed.
You see him a little
just
bit.
Briefly, yeah.
Which that might scare the shit out of a kid, though. Yes.
Well, there was a lot of the movies back then. It was what they didn't show that scared you more than what they did. One thing I like about some of the older films.
Yeah, that was like what the that was why they actually apparently shot a more intense scene with the doctor dying, but they pulled it back and then they decided to pull most of it back just for that purpose.
Much.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
It's a drive-in audience movie. It's not supposed to be violent. It's supposed to be fun.
It's a drive-in movie. Nobody cares what's on the screen.
Yeah.
not if you're dating someone, so you're not looking at the movie. But apparently somebody did this one because they made $4 million. So.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. All right. So I want to thank you, Dave and Jim, for joining me on this conversation about 1958's The Blob. We really do hope that everyone out there who's listening to our podcast today takes a chance on revisiting this film. If you've seen it once or twice but haven't really given it a second thought, or if you've never seen it before, give it a chance. It did spawn an amazing remake. We'll have to discuss Beware the Blob a little bit differently when we actually do that one.
All I'm being on that one, man. That is so much fun.
Yeah. But this film right here, it is considered a classic. It does shine well above a lot of the other similar films of that era. And so we hope that you'll seek it out especially if you've never seen it before. And if you're a fan of the remake, you should definitely check it out. With that, we hope that you check out all the other episodes we've done for the podcast. You can find the podcast in your favorite podcast app, Spotify, and YouTube. We also have a sister podcast called Conversations in Full Color, which delves deep into comic books, manga, and graphic novels. And from everyone here at Something Wicked Entertainment, we wish you a pleasant day, and we hope to see you soon. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.